we've owned the island site since the 1960s, and we pulled together all the different elements of it by 2012. So what we have here is many years in the making. It's an entire island site, and we have the safeguarded retail below, so we kept those operational throughout the development, and additionally we've kept the Piccadilly lights on it. But everything else you'll see is new or refurbished or listed building.
The first thing that we did was the replacement of the lights, the famous Piccadilly lights. It used to be 6 screens, and then we changed that from 6 screens to one huge digital screen. One of the constraints of the site is that we had to keep the units on the ground floor operational, including the boots unit there, so they stayed operational throughout the build. We're standing on Shaftesbury Avenue outside one of the historic facades. There were 6 historic facades in total in the island site. This is the faience one on Shaftesbury Avenue. So during the planning process, we got permission to dismantle or partially dismantle this facade and then rebuild it back up again. So above the 2nd floor, that's actually all new. It was all handmade, handcrafted in the north of England by Shaws of Darwin. He did a fantastic job. We're really, really pleased with it.
We're activating the ground floor here by putting in our rooftop restaurant, so the entrance is directly opposite us, and then this corner unit is a large unit that's going for an A3 bar unit. So the idea of adding to that West End Soho feel before we head down into Denman Street.
So we're standing outside Rainbow Corner, and this is a very important part of the site. During the Second World War, this was the home of the Red Cross, and it was where thousands and thousands of soldiers, American GIs, used to use this daily. When it shut down after the war, Eleanor Roosevelt actually closed it down. But we've marked this as a significant corner by adding this kind of faience facade. And the idea is there's an opalescent sheen to it, so it reflects all the kind of neon lights of Shaftesbury Avenue and Theatreland at night time. Right. So we're standing outside 46 Glasshouse Street, which is another historic building on the site. This building is Grade 2 listed at ground floor level. It was originally designed in about 1910 by Reginald Bloomfield, but it's been completely restored. We also kind of, above the ground floor, we dismantled it block by block. They were lovingly kind of repaired and then put back up again. But we also managed to kind of stretch this facade as well, where we actually added another floor in. So the roof in Lucent, we call it the 5th elevation, as do the planners. It's a very, very important elevation because this building is so often photographed from above, from aerial views. What the roof has managed to do is basically open up all these roof terraces, so the kind of the leftover spaces in between have become really, really important, where you do get these terraces. On the 7th floor, for example, we've got the largest, I think, roof terrace in Soho. Yeah. So this is Denman Street, which is definitely a Soho street. You've got this articulate brickwork, which basically mimics the historic buildings here on 19 and 20 Denman Street, which were dismantled, and then we put them back up again. These house the 7 residential apartments.
It was important that when we worked with Joe on this in the development is that it reflects that Soho and that scale. So these 2 elements here are historic buildings. So again, we dismantled them and rebuilt them. And so these are going to be 7 one-bedroom private residential apartments. But then the remainder of it had to go from that pub historic facade scale all the way over to the faience and Shaftesbury and Theatreland. So I think what Fletcher Priest have done really cleverly is taken that sort of more minor scale all the way up to the sort of faience, and they've gradually done that, maintaining that sort of townscape of different elevations, whilst actually it may look like multiple different buildings on this facade, but it's one building behind it. So as we experienced today, it's very busy outside, and the street here in particular is busy with cars, but also people going through Soho. So it was important that, unlike some developments where you may have a quieter side, every elevation is activated. So this elevation is just as activated. So you, as previously mentioned, we have our sort of large restaurant bar on this side, but we also have the sort of dedicated cycle entrance taking us down to our sort of changing room facilities and cycle store. You then have 4 A1 units framing the logistics bay, and then it goes into residential and pub. So it's a very busy facade, and each element of it is activated to allow that there's different users for the building. So there's the office tenant, there's the person coming for their sort of shop details, there's a person here for the bar, there's a person here for the pub, there's a person living here. All elements are being utilised on this facade. So this is the first floor that envelops the entire island site. So below us is the existing retail units and the sort of configuration. And when we started on site back in 2020, if you were stood right here now, above you would be blue sky. And that's sort of why we sort of see this site as such an opportunity. It had 13 existing buildings around the site, but nothing in the middle. And now we have the first of our many office floors. So on level 3, you can see here the large white wall that expands over here, and the light garden with the green wall. That is the Piccadilly Lights. It's located about sort of this far behind that wall.
Throughout the building we have 22 terraces, roof terraces, gardens. We're standing in the central open atrium at the moment with this large tree, which was craned in over the lights during construction.
But even when we were doing construction, it stayed on throughout. And one of the important parts of, even during COVID, when the streets were empty, it was the notice board of the nation. So we intend for that to continue. So even though back then it was then during COVID, now it's still used as that notice board. We do engagements with sort of artists, but also we do a thank you to the team. So the team that delivered this scheme had a moment where we did a thank you to the scheme. So we took everyone down and we took over the Piccadilly Lights. And it's just one of those moments of great pride of delivering the scheme and thanking everyone.
The thing about Lucent is that everyone knows this site because of the Piccadilly Lights. At the time of planning, the 4th biggest tourist attraction in the country, hundreds of millions of people come to visit them every single year.
Well done, Joe.